So you're thinking about making a move to Charlotte, but you just don't know where to go to get your information? Well, welcome to our YouTube channel, Discover Charlotte. But first, before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and smash that bell so you'll be the first to know whenever a new video gets posted, and you can continue learning like a local. We get calls, emails, and text messages every day from people just like you looking to move to the Queen City. So if you're thinking about making a move, whether it's in 9 days or 90 days, reach out. My team would love to help you, but let's get into it. Okay, today we are going to get into Fort Mill, South Carolina. We are going to find out really what it is all about. So Fort Mill, South Carolina is indeed a suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes, it took me a little bit of time to get used to that myself. When I first moved here, I'm like, how on earth is a city that is in South Carolina a totally different state, a suburb of North Carolina? But it is, and now it's just normal. So geographically, where is Fort Mill? It is right outside of Charlotte, y'all, literally. So if you're not familiar with Charlotte, the 485 belt loop here, the outer circle, is a really good just visual. Anything that's in Charlotte is going to be in there. It does overflow down here a little bit, but it just for simplicity, if you want to kind of have a visual representation of where Charlotte is, it is all within this 485 loop. So then right below that, you've got the North and South Carolina border. And then right below that, you have Fort Mill. So that's part of what draws people to the area, is its proximity to Charlotte without having the big city feel. So Charlotte has just under 1 million people and Fort Mill has just around 30,000. So quite the difference. But you have that proximity to Charlotte. So you can see right here, you've got 77, which will go as far down as Columbia, and it goes even farther north from Statesville. It just kind of keeps going. Not that you ever need to go out there, but if you wanted to, it's a really straight shot. So we've got 77, and then we do have the 485 belt loop right here that if you needed to get over up to Huntersville, it would likely have you take 160 right here and then hop on 485. So I say all this and I want to highlight all of these highways that we have here in Charlotte because it really does make your commute a lot easier wherever you need to go. A lot of people that live in Fort Mill do find themselves commuting and working in Charlotte. I actually saw a statistic that 75% of people, I think it was 75% of people work in technology or on computers. So, which makes sense. We have a big technology field here in Charlotte with Bank of America and Wells Fargo, all their security. So a lot of people do still commute, even if it's a couple days a week right now, back and forth into Charlotte, and it's really not a terrible commute. So I have a joke that whenever I meet somebody new and they ask, well, if they're looking down in Fort Mill or they're looking down here in Indian Land, well, how far is it to Lake Wylie? How far is it to Charlotte? How far is it to the airport? 20 minutes. Everything's 20, 25 minutes. And for the most part, it's pretty much accurate. You can get to Fort Mill to the airport here. Let's see. 33 minutes right now. There's a little bit of traffic showing. So you can get to the airport in 33 minutes. You can get into downtown Charlotte in probably just about 25, 30 minutes. So it really is still very accessible to Charlotte and all things that Charlotte has to offer. So on top of that, you have the accessibility here to Lake Wylie. TKK is going to have the most drop-in zones or drop points free. So we have 3 lakes here in the Charlotte area. We've got Lake Wylie, then a little bit higher we have Mountain Island Lake and Lake Norman, the largest one. If you're down in Fort Mill and you want to hop on the lake, the closest one is going to be Lake Wylie too. It doesn't have a ton of restaurants on it, like if you wanted waterfront dining, but there is, I believe, one. Drift just opened up. There's 2. There's Papa Doc's and Drift right there on Lake Wylie. So you do have a couple waterfront dining options if you want. So you've got the really easy access and commute into Charlotte if you need it. You've got the 3 main highways to get you wherever you need to go quite easily. You've got access to the lake. With that being said, you can hop on any of these and head out to the beach, or you can head out to the mountains. And either way you go, you're going to be about a 2.5 to 3 hour drive. to get to one of them. So location is amazing. Another reason, so Fort Mill has experienced an amazing amount of growth in the past couple of years. Since 2020, I saw it has grown about 25%, which is insane. But it just goes to show of how amazing of a town it is. So one main thing that draws people to the Fort Mill area are the schools. Fort Mill School District is consistently rated number 1 in the state. So it's number 1 out of 80 different school districts, which is crazy. If you head over to greatschools.org, which is my main source for schools, you'll see that their schools, they rate them from 1 to 10, and you'll see they're always rated 8, 9, and 10. So it really is a good area. With that being said, for Fort Mill, it is a great area for families because of the school zones. And I want to extend on the community feel a little bit more. So 85% of people are homeowners in Fort Mill and not renters. So you know that your neighbor is likely going to be there for a lot longer than just a year, helping build that sense of community. The growth in Fort Mill, again, it has over the past year, it's had a 1.6% growth in the job market, which is crazy. Higher than the national average. They still expect it to have like an overall 42% in the next 10 years, and they only expect the national to have about 35% of job growth. So it really is still growing. So while that is a pro, there can also be a con to that. And the con of the growth is the infrastructure. While you can get anywhere you need to quite easily, I will say that the traffic is getting heavy in Fort Mill, even with the interstates. And as opposed to like what we have here in Charlotte, I know that I can go down one way and be at a grocery store in a mile. And I can go the other way, and I have 2 options of grocery stores in a mile. Where Fort Mill is a little bit more spread out, they don't quite have as many options or amenities that you might want. So that is a con, but a pro to that is if you take a look at all of this green space right here, there's still a ton of space in Fort Mill for additional growth, and it's very pretty. So Ann Springs Greenway is right here. So it's right here, and this is all a protected nature preserve. So that's going to stay nice and green. So with growth, there are good and bad things. On top of that, Fort Mill is a newer community for the most part. It does have a historic downtown area, which has some really cute historic buildings. It actually has one of my favorite shops in it. It is called Pucker But Pepper. You can see it right down here in downtown Fort Mill. It is, let's drop in there really quickly. Go take a walk. So it is over here on one of these sides here. I won't try to find it, but if you're ever in the town, try to find Pucker Butt. He's actually the creator of the Carolina Reaper pepper here. It's like one of the hottest peppers. So if you're ever down in Fort Mill, definitely check it out. But you can see here, historic downtown Fort Mill. It does have old buildings. They've all been rehabbed into cute little storefronts and shops. But overall, Fort Mill is not an old city if you're driving outside of this. I mean, this is just a very small part. And surrounding, you'll find some mill houses. But in general, Fort Mill feels like a very new community. So you've got a lot of newer shopping malls, strip districts, and new construction. So because of the green space that's still available in Fort Mill, you have a lot of options to continue building. So builders have taken advantage of that, which is great. So let's go into some real estate here. Let's switch screens and take you to a map. So over here, you can see Fort Mill really does back up to the North and South Carolina border. And I just did a quick search of houses from 450 to 600 here. There's a handful of houses, 33 of them. Right now, we are kind of in our slower season of real estate. So inventory is low in general, but 'tis the season. So you can see that the average price point right now in Fort Mill is sitting at that 570 range. And if you wanted a neighborhood, so because it is really spread out, it does have a lot of communities in it, but Baxter Village is a favorite. It's definitely one of the more walkable spots. It's a mixed-use development of residential, of shopping, eating. It's a golf cart community. And just to take a quick look, this house is listed right at that 580 mark, 2,200 square foot. It has that very Charleston feel to it. Of course, I picked the one that doesn't have great photos. Get yourself a good agent if you're ever wanting to sell your house. These are not great. This one's a little bit dated, but just to give you an idea, it's more of a traditional feeling homes in that Baxter Village, but a lot of people are drawn there. It actually has its own schools. It has its own YMCA. It's got shopping. It's got restaurants. So if you really want that sense of community, Baxter Village is where you need to be. But aside from that, like I said, builders are actually putting a lot of new construction homes up in Charlotte, so you can see options like this as well. So we've got some options for everybody, honestly. This one is just over that 2,200 square foot mark as well, or 2,700 square foot, I'm sorry. 502, 2,700 square foot. So you've got lots of different housing options. You've got easy to commute into Charlotte. You've got the lake. You've got mountains and beaches 3 hours away. So you really do have it all. Yeah, just if you are interested in Fort Mill, I hope this was helpful. I hope it gave you a little bit of a deeper dive into it. Location's great. Sense of community is great. It's still a small town feel right outside of a big city. You've got different little pockets like Baxter Village, and Kingsley is a new development. You've got downtown Fort Mill, which is a historic feel if that's what you want. So the job market is growing. The cost of living is a bit higher in Fort Mill, which is a negative. But with that said, the average household income is a bit more. So on average, nationally right now, we're at about $70,000, where Fort Mill, you're looking at about $120,000. So pros and cons everywhere you look, but I hope this was helpful for you to get a better dive into the Fort Mill area. If you're thinking about making a move here to Charlotte, again, whether it's in 9 days or 90 days, reach out to our team. We'd love to help you.